YouTube, what's going on? Racing Chemical here. Welcome to another F1 2020 My Team career mode video. We're at round 2 here in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Long story short, round 1 in Australia was absolutely miserable. It was one of the worst races I've had in this game in a long time. I have worked on the car quite a bit in practice sessions 1 through 3 here for this race weekend, so I feel much better in the car. There's still a lot of improvement that obviously needs to be done, but I feel we'll be able to be much more competitive here in this weekend than we were obviously in round 1. So I'm going to take you to our hot laps for qualifying. So guys, welcome to qualifying. Here is our hot lap in Bahrain. The vehicle feels much better than it did in Australia. I actually took quite a bit of time in practice to make adjustments to get the vehicle to feel as comfortable and stable as possible. Remember, in Australia, I felt like every turn I was fighting the car and trying my hardest to keep us from facing the opposite direction. But the vehicle feels much better here for today in Bahrain. We're going to see what we can do. Our pace wasn't looking great, I should say, during free practice. Granted, I didn't try to put out too many hot laps, just completing obviously the practice programs. But like I said, the control and the comfortability I feel with the car this week is much better than it was in Australia. So that should help us out a lot better. I'm not really expecting us to still out qualify anybody, just because I know we have some worn components that need to be switched out, and we're obviously going to suffer a lack of power due to the wear and tear on those components. We're coming down here into turn 11 in the DRS zone. The fastest our car can reach, I think, is about 192, 193, and I've seen what the other cars are able to do in straight line speed. They're able to at least hit 204, 205. So losing even 10 to 12 miles per hour in the straights, and there's 4 straights on this circuit, that is a lot of lost time, and that adds up, especially throughout the course of this race, which is going to be 29 laps. So that's a lot of time that we're missing out just from the lack of power and speed in the straights. And there was a couple of corners where I felt like I was maybe going to lose the car, so I did lift off the throttle a little bit, and we only ended up doing a 129.164. Not a good time for me here in Bahrain with the car. Obviously, that's very underwhelming to say the least.
We're here again then at a circuit famous for its stunning visuals and thrilling battles for glory. Who will take the spotlight in the Bahrain Grand Prix today? Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Vettel, Norris, Carlos Sainz, and Stroll, Leclerc, Perez, Albon, and Max Verstappen, Ricciardo, Gasly, Esteban Ocon, and Kvyat, Magnussen, Raikkonen, Romain Grosjean, and Jack Aitken, Russell, Giovinazzi, Latifi, and Edwards. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
All right, guys, there is the grid for today's Bahrain Grand Prix. So obviously we're going to be on the medium to hard one-stop strategy. We certainly do not have a pace to do a two-stopper at all, and I really don't like doing two-stoppers unless I absolutely have to. We're going to make, I think I was considering making a wing adjustment. I think I did lower the pressure, PSI on my tire pressure back all the way down to 0 for both the rears and the fronts. We're going to do medium to hards, one stop, and we'll see how the pace is. I don't expect us to be very competitive today. So with that one stopper, we're just going to try to extend our first stint, see if we can obviously make up a couple positions of cars that come into the pit and try to maintain that advantage throughout the rest of the race. So with our formation lap complete, it is back to the grid here, waiting for 5 red lights. We are starting in P22. Let's see what we can do here. Lights out, and we are underway. It's actually not a bad start for us, considering a lot of wheel spin for Giovinazzi and Latifi to the left of us. We're actually able to pass those two. We're going to try to have a late dive down here on the inside, which is usually what I do in Bahrain against the AI. Obviously, it's much easier to do against actual human players. It all depends on how good they are. Sometimes you may be able to get away with it, and of course I try to do that with minimal contact. We were able to get up, as you saw, to P12, and then we ended up losing the 2 positions back. We really cut that corner a lot shorter than I would have wanted to, but nonetheless we're able to get to P14 here. Not a bad start considering how bad our car is. So we are still here on lap 1. Later had a little bit of wheel spin, got a little bit loose there, and Magnussen's going to come to the outside of us, I believe, and we have a caution here. Now Grosjean passes us to the left, and I believe Magnussen was coming on the right side of us. He ends up going in too fast, too deep, and ends up putting himself in a bad situation. So fortunately, we were able to get out of that unscathed, but nonetheless, a little contact from K-Mag already in lap 1. Fast forward a little bit here into lap 2 on the straight. As you can see, Ocon is right on our tail. No DRS yet, but with the slipstream and just the raw power of that Renault compared to us in our chemical racing Formula 1 car, we have no straight line speed at all. It was one of the most daunting things of this entire GP. So Ocon's easily able to go past us and move up into P15, and we drop down to P16. Fast forward into lap 2, approaching lap 3. Pretty much the same thing that happened last time. We are on the straight. Again, we have no straight line speed in this car at all, and George Russell in the Williams is able to blow past us so easily to move into P16. We drop down to P17. So what looked like a good start, we are quickly finding ourselves moving backwards at a steady pace, and it's only lap 3, and like I said, we have no straight line speed. We cut that corner really bad there. The car feels much better than it did in round 1 at the Australian GP, but we still do not have the power and the speed that I would like to have, that I'm used to having, I should say, in order to keep up. So nonetheless, we are down to P17. So here we are again later into lap 3, approaching lap 4 as we come down to turns 14 and 15. Same story as always. In fact, more than half of the clips in this video originally were just going to be of us getting overtaken on the straight because we have no straight line speed between obviously turn 15 and turn 1 in the DRS zone, which DRS is enabled now. And now our teammate Jack Aiken is able to go easily past us, but we're going to try to do the switchback, or at least I thought about it. Then I decided I didn't want to run into my teammate and cause a collision. I am going to keep it tight, and again, cutting the corners much tighter than I would normally like to. And that also still goes to just kind of the lack of stability with the car that we have at this point in time. But like I said, it's a reoccurring theme of just cars passing us on the straight because we just have no speed to keep up with them whatsoever. A couple laps later into lap 7, we are coming down into turn 1. Jack Aiken is going to try to dive bomb, go to the inside. He is on the medium tires, still the same as us, and we have some pretty good racing here with Jack for a little bit, but I think Jack is obviously much more comfortable in the car than we are. He is going to go past us. Obviously, we're not going to fight him at this point for that position. Jack moves up into P18, and we'll just settle back for P19 as we try to keep Giovinazzi off of our tail for the time being. So coming out of turns 14 and 15 on the straight again, this is when those top 10 or whomever was on the softs ahead of us are coming in for their pit stop. So naturally we are going to obviously gain a couple of positions. We're going to try to make this work to the best of our advantage. Sebastian Vettel coming out to the right of us, and he actually kind of has a late dive there. He didn't give us any space. We gave him plenty of space, and he just goes straight into us, into that corner. It frustrated me in the moment because I felt like I gave him plenty of space, and he just went right into the side of us. Fortunately, we had no damage or anything at all. And again, later in this same lap, Sebastian Vettel is right on our tail. Of course, he's on fresh soft, so he is doing the 2-stopper, and he is so close to us. We get a little bit of contact, a nice little bump from Vettel again, and he does gain the position, move up into P13. I knew Vettel in the Ferrari was going to be much faster, but man, you talk about kind of playing it a little bit rough there. The elbows were definitely out, to say the least. He was not really giving us any room, gave us a little love tap there. Couple laps later, as we're coming down into turn 8, going into turn 9 and turn 10, Carlos Sainz is right on our tail. He's on fresh softs, and again, driver's quite aggressive here. Gives us a nice love tap on the end and sends us for a little half spin. We had to cut the track to get back on course, and I was really frustrated at that. You know, Carlos was not giving us any space, and there was an incident that obviously happened behind us as well. So Carlos not only caused us to have a half spin, he also caused somebody else to have an incident back there, and I think that was actually K-Mag that actually had an incident off track going into turn 10, which obviously happens a lot. So that was a little bit frustrating, to say the least. Like I said, Carlos didn't give us any space at all. He comes flying down there, gives us that tap, and actually causes a full course safety car, well, a virtual safety car that moves to the full course safety car. So now with the full course safety car out, we are currently slotted in P10. We still haven't pitted yet. We're still on the same medium tires that we started this race with. Again, we're still sticking to the one stopper. A lot of guys came in and pitted either for fresh softs or fresh mediums, so continue to do that two stop. Like I said, we don't really have the space, or excuse me, the pace to take extra time to make an additional stop. So I'm sticking to the one stop. We're going to come in, we're going to put the hards on, and then we're just going to hope that when a lot of these guys still have to come in for their second stop, whether it's the soft or mediums, we'll be able to just obviously gain a couple of positions and hopefully hold out till the end of the race, just based off of those guys having to come in for that extra pit stop alone. Again, they're going to be much faster on the fresher tires, but it's the best chance we have at gaining any positions, because like I said, we simply just do not have the pace today, and this is our best chance at trying to finish above last place like we did obviously in the Australian Grand Prix. I forgot to include as well on that pit stop that we made a slight wing adjustment. I believe we went from 8 down to 5 to try to gain some speed. Here we are, green flag. We resume racing. We are officially in P20. I probably should have pitted a little bit earlier, but I don't think we would have made up that many positions. I still think we would have potentially been like P17 or something. So Kevin Magnussen is able to easily go past us. Yellow flag here. I don't see anybody off track, so I'm not sure if something happened. We're going to again go for a late dive down there. And we have issues again with K-Mag for the second or third time, it seems, in this race. And he almost sends us off track, but he ends up going off track. K-Mag was absolutely racing like a madman here today. He goes off track, and that effectively kind of ruins the remainder of his race, but it also puts us behind. We made up a couple of positions going down into turn 1, and then Kevin Magnussen gets on side of us on the left side, keeps us pretty much tied up all the way into the DRS zone of turn 3, and then he ends up putting himself off track. So nonetheless, bad for him, and again, not great for us either. So 2 laps later into lap 16, we are still battling with Kevin Magnussen again. Even in that Haas, he is still in a much better, I would say, car in straight line speed compared to our Chemical Racing Formula 1 car. As you can see, we're battling with K-Mag again. He's going to try to come to the inside of us. We give him plenty of space. We don't squeeze him down. And again, K-Mag is off track, which I think is for like the 3rd time in this GP. Second collision with us, or 3rd collision with us. I've lost count at this point. And I just did not understand what he was trying to do. Absolutely racing reckless. And like I said, we're giving people plenty of space. We're not really squeezing anybody out. We're not, I would say, putting the elbows out to a certain extent where, like I said, we're just kind of bumping guys. We're giving everybody plenty of space. And for whatever reason, they are just not giving us any room, any love here today. Again, some of those runners that started off, or at least that came in for that short pit on that full course safety car, now coming in for their last stint, mostly on the medium. So we're going to make up a couple of positions here. So with 10 laps remaining, we fast forward to lap 19. We are currently sitting P7. We're on the hards again. We're not making an additional stop. Most guys have come in for their second stop and last stop. Some haven't. We have Valtteri Bottas right on our tail. And again, the same area. Guys are just running into the back of us and sending themselves flying. I wasn't able to actually get the full replay from Bottas's point of view, but essentially he just ran right into us. I don't usually brake early. In fact, I'm a very late braker most of the time, so there's really no excuse for somebody to be running into the back of me. Bottas ran into the back of me. He had, I believe, left front wing damage as well, and that kind of effectively hurt his race pretty badly. He was on pace. Remember, he did qualify on pole, but he effectively ruined his race by running into the back of us, similar to what Carlos Sainz did, except Carlos didn't have anything negative come from that, but Bottas, on the other hand, did. So the race has pretty much been, it's been a little hectic, obviously. A couple of yellows, Kevin Magnussen running into us, which seems about 20 billion times. Carlos Sainz giving us half a spin. Bottas running into the back of us. Vettel giving us a couple of love taps. And as you can see, Ocon and Sainz on the fresher mediums and much better, much stronger cars blow right past us again on the straight. I can't exaggerate. This happened what seems like every other lap for this race. 29 laps in this race. I can't exaggerate. I feel at least 14 of those laps on that straight, cars were just blowing right past us. So any progress we may have made in a couple of corners, we ended up losing out on that straight, because like I said, I mean, our highest top speed was about 184 miles per hour. We also had a lot of MGU damage as well as the ICE, so our car was just underperforming to the biggest extent, and who knows how much we were missing out from those wear and on those components, and then like I said, just the car not being where it needs to be in terms of straight line speed. So it was a relatively stressful Grand Prix, to say the least. So with only 4 laps remaining in this race, we're sitting in P14. Raikkonen is going to come up to the inside of us and again give us a nice love tap, as everybody else has seemed to do in this race, as at least a 4th car. Not a whole lot of love for us out there, but Raikkonen easily able to get up into P14. And yeah, I thought I was leaving these guys a lot of space. I usually do, even in my league that I race in. I haven't had any complaints about not giving guys space. In fact, guys have apologized for me for either running into me or squeezing me out or kind of giving me a tap. So I try to race as respectful, as cleanly, and as hard as possible without obviously putting anybody into the wall, without squeezing somebody out, not giving them, space. That's not how I like to race. I will be competitive. I'll race you hard, but I'm not going to race you dirty. And the AI, for whatever reason, in today's GP, were not showing me any love whatsoever. So with 3 laps here to go, as you can see, ICE so worn, the turbocharger as well, MGUH. We have a lot of very worn components because we've spent a lot of time in practice for round 1. Way more time than obviously I should have, and that was a very, very bad race, you guys remember. Jack Aiken is able to easily go by us. I wasn't going to hold him up, obviously. He is much faster, much more comfortable in the car. Hopefully he can try to gain a couple of positions. I doubt he'll obviously finish in the points at this rate, but finishing higher than anybody else that is currently battling with us is still a goal of ours. In fact, it's the only reachable goal we have at this point. Now, one of the most frustrating things that I have had in a race in quite some time, racing against the AI and or real players. We are on the last lap. We are sitting P16. I was hoping we were going to be able to at least keep P16 for one more lap. Giovinazzi, Grosjean go right past us. We try to go for the inside dive, gain that position back on Grosjean, but way too much. Got on the gas and the throttle a little bit too hard, and we end up losing out on that progress. Kevin Magnussen is still way behind us. He does catch up to us by the end of the race, but so frustrating. I was holding these guys out for 3 or 4 laps. And in the very last lap, just like I said, with all the wear on the different components of the car, not to mention just our lack of straight line speed and power, we did not have anything left to hold those guys off. Not to mention they were also on the medium and faster tires. Our hards were not going to keep them at bay as long as I hoped. Just one more lap I needed to hold out, and they all passed us. And when you talk about your hopes being crushed and you just talk about feeling so defeated, it's been a while since I felt that defeated in this game at any given point. And as we come around turns 14 and 15 for the last time, we are going to cross the line in P19. We did not finish in last. We didn't get a DNF like Bottas and I believe Leclerc. Charles Leclerc had an early DNF, I think in lap 6 or lap 7. So again, we were able to survive, again, without a DNF, and we actually didn't finish in last place, and we got driver of the day somehow. And I think that's literally only because we did a 1-stop. Everybody else did a 2-stop strategy. I believe Lewis Hamilton obviously ended up getting the win since Bottas was the other DNF. Sergio Perez obviously got second on the podium. He was looking really good in the Racing Point. And Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault ended up getting third. So it was a very unique and interesting podium, to say the least. It was nice to see at least only one Mercedes up there and not 2. Whether it's Valtteri or Lewis doesn't matter. But like I said, for us, I mean, we finished 1 spot from last place. And like I said, just the wear on the car, the lack of just raw pace we had in the straights, obviously with 4 straights here in Bahrain, 3 DRS zones. That was so much lost time for us against the other cars in the field that are just much more powerful, much more quicker in general. So we lost out on a lot of time, and that really hurt us today. I thought driving wise, I drove much better than I did in Australia, because mainly I actually took time in trying to get the car to feel as comfortable as I could feel with it during practice sessions 1 through 3. Australia, like I said, I totally neglected trying to get myself comfortable with the car, but I made sure to make that a priority here for Bahrain this week. We didn't make too many mistakes like we did obviously in Australia, but like I said, we have no pace, we have no speed, and we have a lot of very worn down components that we are going to have to switch out a lot earlier than I would like to, but nonetheless, it's what we have to do. We're probably only going to get through, like I said, just this one season, and then F1 2021 will be out, so I'm not really concerned about grid drop penalties. We're going to be starting at the back anyways. The way I look at it, we're going to try to have the car be as competitive as it can be. Hopefully by race 6 or race 7, we'll be able to be in a closer position to finish in the points. That is really my long-term goal, to get into the points by the end of the season and for us not to finish last in the constructors. So obviously we're going to put the emphasis on making sure that we get those very worn components switched out. We're going to continue to develop the car aerodynamically as well as the powertrain. I think that is probably our most important focuses, just because, like I said, durability wise, we're not even probably gonna make it to season 2, because like I said, F1 2021 will be out by then. So we're just focusing on performance as of now, and whatever components we'll have to switch, if they get worn, we'll just switch them out. We'll accept the grid penalty, and we'll just try to be as competitive as we can and see, like I said, if we can finish in the points by the end of the season and not be the last team in the constructors. That is my goal, and if I'm able to achieve that, I'll feel pretty good going into F1 2021. So that is going to do it for today's Grand Prix. You guys are just looking at some of the highlights here, obviously, of round 2 in the Bahrain Grand Prix. I will take you guys to what we're doing as far as our developments and R&D is concerned here shortly, and yeah, we'll go from there. So again, obviously not a great performance at all, but we still did not finish last place. We at least did beat one car, and we survived till the end. So we're going to go through some R&D here. We are technically supposed to be faster than the Haas, the Alfa Romeo, and the Williams. It certainly does not feel like it out there on track at all. Now, I'm not sure once we switch these components out, will we maybe see a little bit of that performance return. But currently where we're at, we do not feel like we are competitive with any of those other teams that were supposedly better than. I think Jack Aiken is doing pretty well. Like I said, he's definitely much more comfortable in the car in its current state than we are. We're going to make some upgrades here. And yeah, like I said, performance is our main focus here. Like I said, reliability and durability is not a concern since we're only going to make it through one season anyways. Sponsors wise, financially, I mean, we're doing okay. We're not making anything too substantial as far as the finances are concerned. I believe I will be shutting down one department, I think the social media or department, just because, again, it's something we're not going to need for just one season. But that is currently where we're at. Round 3 is going to be in Spain. Hopefully we'll do much better for that. Our newest component should be fitted by then, so the car will have much more better performance. And like I said, I'm hoping that we'll be able to finish ahead of a couple of cars. Like I said, maybe ahead of a couple of Williams, Alfa, or Haas, whomever. Hopefully we will avoid issues with Kevin Magnussen. He will not try to create a demolition derby with us like he did here in Bahrain. But we're going to focus on that performance. We'll fit those new components, and like I said, hopefully we'll be much more competitive in Spain to at least finish. Goal is to at least try to finish P16. I would say we could finish P16, P15, not in the points quite yet, but I think that would be a good result considering how these last two have went. That's going to do it for today's video. Appreciate you guys' support. Make sure to subscribe if you are new. Like I said, I will be playing F1 2021 once it releases, as well as Gran Turismo. I'm staying away from Gran Turismo currently just because I'm in my season, my league for F1 2020. Once that league is over and F1 2021 comes out, I will start playing Gran Turismo more, because I may take a season off from my league in F1. I'm not sure. I will be playing my team quite a bit, but I'm looking forward to actually streaming Gran Turismo and making videos of that content as well. Appreciate you guys' support, but until next time, Racing Chemical is signing out. Hope you all have a great and fantastic day. See ya and goodbye.